Hey babes, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Brandy. I am the host of the Be Real Babe Show, a spinoff of the Be Real Babe podcast. And today, you guys, we are keeping up with Canada, and I have 4 different stories for you today going across the country. I'm not just being biased to my own province this time. Sometimes I realize I do bring a little bit more of BC, but today I've got 4 different stories coming from all different, from the federal all Canadian level that's going to be affected here. We're going to be talking about a missing Alberta boy, and then we're going to be talking about 2 other very disturbing stories, one from BC, one all the way from back in Ontario, with some abuse to some Canadians that I think we need to talk about so we can be aware that these things could happen. So if you're interested in listening to that, stick around and we'll jump right in. Alright guys, let's jump into some news of what's happening recently this week here in Canada. Today I obviously want to start off with one of the most important ones that have been going on for a few days now, actually for 1 week. So I have an article here from CBC, more crews arriving as searching for missing Alberta boy approaches 1 week mark. Every time I can, I try to bring these stories. I think it's super important. If you guys want to find any websites, you can go to Missing People Canada. There's a Facebook page where they share this information all the time. If you feel like you're maybe you don't watch the news, sometimes the news doesn't always cover things. If you're not reading articles, maybe you're not seeing it on social media, these groups are really great if you are interested in following up on cases that are currently still open or just being in the know. One thing I like about these groups as well is that they tell you when people have been found, and they do their best to be up to date with their information. So this one has been going on for a week now, and as I mentioned, at the current time, I do not believe there has been I did follow up in one of the last episodes of the children missing from Nova Scotia. They're at this current time not found, and there's another missing boy. I just watched a Global News segment where they believe at this point, unfortunately, it's about a 5% chance of survival rate. But regardless, I still want to spread this just in case anybody can help find this little boy. But let's dive into a little bit more of the details here. So more crews arriving as search for missing Alberta boy approaches 1 week mark. Darius McDougall went missing Sunday morning on a walk with family members in Crown Nest Pass. After 5 days of scouring rugged terrain, the search for a missing boy in Crown Nest Pass is expanding, with new searchers coming from Saskatchewan and additional RCMP support. 6-year-old Darius McDougall went missing Sunday morning while on a walk with his family members at a campground near Blairmore, Alberta. Adam Kennedy, Search and Rescue Alberta, told reporters in a video news conference Friday afternoon that additional search crews are on their way from Saskatchewan to help spell off volunteer searchers from Alberta and BC. We've asked for all available resources across both British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, said Kennedy. We anticipate seeing more volunteers available as we go into the weekend and expect to see those numbers bolster over the weekend. Alberta RCMP Corporal Gina Slaney said Friday concerns from the public that the force was about to start scaling back the search are not true. As of today, we have additional sources on site, which include 60 TCGs, Tactical Support Group officers. Their main role will be to support search efforts. Searchers on the ground and in helicopter, accompanied by drones and dogs, have been scouring the area but haven't seen any sign of the boy. The boy does have autism, so crews say they are employing several search tactics, including avoiding loud noises and bright lights at nighttime. Kennedy said morale is high and searchers remain optimistic that McDougall will be found, noting the area has water and that humans can survive a long time without food. So this article was written on Friday, and then obviously the episode I was watching tonight aired today, Sunday, before this is launching tomorrow, and it's sounding like it said that they've had conversations about it not being a successful search, which I really hope isn't true, and I hope there is some success, but we're going into 7 days. So again, if you're in that area, please keep your eyes open. If you're have cameras or anything, I know it's a campground, but who knows, maybe some people have ring lights on their campers and stuff like that, so try and keep an eye out for this little man. It's super sad, and I really hope that they can find some answers. Again, we've seen this one in Canada too. There's been a couple where it's been a couple years, a couple months, and they still remain as missing children. I have heard that they are keeping this as a missing children's case, meaning that they don't think at this current time there's any reason to believe in foul play or anything like that. I think, again, where there's a lot less speculation on this one is because they've kind of confirmed that it is a missing child, and we're the ones in Nova Scotia, they never put anything out for that. So really praying, and I know there's been rumors that they're scaling back, and it sounds like they're not, as they said, scaling back. They're going to look, I think they're just going to change how they're searching, with the understanding that they might not be able to use like their thermal guides or anything like that, detectors, so they're just approaching things different, but it doesn't sound like it's being scaled back. It's just being approached differently. So prayers out to the family and friends affected by this. I can't imagine. That's why I always want to talk about missing people on the show as much as I can, at least every week, bring one different case. It's unfortunate that we have to, but I don't know what else to do. I don't know how else to help, especially being it's not around my area. At the minimum, I'm going to share, his photo right here to be able to just keep your eyes out for this little boy and prayers for their families. And hopefully I can keep you guys posted on that story. So next story, as we all know, all affects Canada. And I'm not going to lie, guys, I'm kind of crashing out about this one because my passport is supposed to be in the mail. And I don't know if I'm going to have to get it. So wish me luck. That's scary. First time I actually decided to go on a vacation, and now I'm not even sure I can get my friggin' passport. And again, I think a lot of people are getting frustrated, and I understand postal workers too. Please sound off in the comments because we're just reading what we're being provided, right? So keep this in mind. Please be mad at media outlets. But, a lot of people are frustrated because, again, it sounds like they're going into a holiday season again. This will happen last year, and I believe it was almost 2 months, if I remember correctly, of the strike. And I know it was, pretty intense for most people. So we'll see where this comes to. But it sounds like maybe there's a little bit more going on here, that this is a lot bit deeper than last time. So let's just read what CBC has to say. When you guys are always wanting to quote my sources, I'm quoting sources from the mainstream media. Canada Post reassessing latest offer to workers due to Ottawa's announcement reforms. The Crown Corporation has cancelled plans to present workers with a new offer on Friday. Any hopes for a speedy end to the latest postal strike were dashed late Friday afternoon when Canada Post announced it has postponed plans to present its latest contract to its 55,000 workers. Last week, Canada Post said it was sending a new offer to the CUPW on Friday in an effort to get negotiations moving again. But in an email statement, the Crown Corporation said it will now be reassessing that offer and will present a revised version to workers when ready. Canada Post says its change of plans was prompted by the federal government's announcements to reform the Crown Corporation. On Thursday, Ottawa called for Canada Post to end home delivery and close some rural mail outlets to stabilize its finances and ensure its survival. The Crown Corporation is on track to lose $1.5 billion in 2025, which can question. I sent something down to the States for Canada Post. It was $10 to get down to Florida. Same box cost me $20 to go to Grand Prairie and $16 to go to the island at Canada Post. And I just signed up for my small business. That it just really sucks. Again, I don't know, but it seems like, from my understanding, year after year after year, they're losing money. And some people are saying, well, yeah, it's because at the top end, these individuals are getting all of this money. Like, they're making thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, they should be trickling it down. I have no idea. Please sound off in the comments. But I do remember in the past, like, I grew up, my grandmother was a letter carrier. And, I feel like she was well taken care of then. But I think things changed so much in the last decade, especially with having competing, before Canada Post that was it. Like, it was very rare that you see Purelator or FedEx or UPS, any of those things. That was very, very rare. It was just everything was Canada Post. Now with Amazon and all those things, I can imagine a lot of business got taken away, especially if they're having competing prices. I know for myself, I've now gotten linked up where it's way cheaper than Canada Post, unfortunately. So again, at the end of the day, guys, even though it's like a federal service that, that is being paid for by the Crown, at the same time, it's still a business. It still has to operate, and they have to, sucks, but they have to kind of go with where things are going. And it sounds like what they're going to do is close a bunch of locations and focus more on having, which when I was in Alberta, like community boxes, and you just went and picked up based on your box, and there wasn't as many mail deliveries door to door. They just go drop everything, go to the next one, drop. So they're kind of like in vehicles and less door to door mail, from my understanding. And I don't know how they're managing their money. All I'm saying is, like, if you're at a loss for $1.5 billion, I'm not sure where you're getting that money to pay people. Unfortunately, as much as it's like, it's a service we need and all that, I completely understand. Do not get me wrong. At the same time, if a business is losing $1.5 billion, like, what's happening? And I don't know if we're allowed to know those things, but I'd just be curious. Negotiations for a new collective agreement have been ongoing for more than a year and a half. Like, before they started striking, and then they struck a year ago. Canada Post says it's committed to negotiating an agreement with CUPW, but it must be affordable, support our people, and help build a sustainable future for our company. It said it will present a revised offer as soon as possible. In a statement Friday, CUPW pledged to fight Ottawa's announcement reforms, denouncing them as a direct assault on our public post office and good unionized jobs. It didn't comment on the delayed contract offer except to say that Canada Post had told the union it will announce on Monday whether it will present a new offer later that week. Jobs Minister Patty Hajdu issued a statement Friday evening urging both sides to keep talking. CUPW can Canada Post need to find the right balance that secures the future of the corporation and respects the workers who keep it running, she said. Canadians depend on them to get this right. And this is so true. That's why I'm like, I totally understand. We need post workers. That's a service that everyone relies on. Like I said, my passport, like there's people that rely on checks. There's people that rely on that for their small business, like fully understanding. At the same time, I think we can all understand too, like if you're going to lose $1.5 billion, like there's only so much a business can run in the negative, so I understand that as well. And so ongoing contract dispute. Earlier this month, the union said Canada Post's latest offers of 13% pay increase fell short of its demand of 19%. While the union said it was willing to work with Canada Post to allow weekend delivery and the addition of part-time workers, it said that the corporation walked away from the negotiating table. Pressure is mounting to reach a deal as the crucial holiday season approaches. A strike and lockout lasted more than a month in November-December last year, ending only after then the Labour Minister Stephen McKinnon declared an impasse in the talks and asked the Canadian Industrial Relations Board to order the employees back to work. So, and obviously that can happen where they decide to tell you like you're going back to work. I'm not exactly how that works in unions and all that, but I guess because you're quote unquote a public servant. I'm not sure. I feel like the Canada Post kind of confuses me a little bit. It's like we do pay for it, we don't pay for it. I don't believe it's owned by private. I think it is a federal, but then they have the union. I don't know. I'm not part of a union, but I will say like I definitely did not get, and I don't know if it's because the prices aren't in tune with what they should be, but if anybody knows, like, why are we looking for a 13-19%? Not being a dick about it, just being straight up curious, because I don't know many places that get that kind of raise. And I'm not saying, like, were our prices so outdated? Like, have jobs gotten easier with things? Have they gotten harder? Like, like I said, back in the day, my nan would be out there. I remember, like, even putting them on as a costume, like her mailbag, and she'd heavy and carry it. And now I see a lot of people driving around. Like, I don't know. Has it gotten better? Has it got worse? I work all the day, so I don't really see what mail carriers are doing anymore. But yeah, this is going to be huge, guys, again, going into this season. It's just always shitty. It's like, I wish these things maybe, not that summer's better, but it's always it really harms small businesses going into these kind of seasons, right? Because they rely on being able to ship people across the country to be able to continue their businesses, and it's going to affect them. So I would encourage people to find another route, open up a different accounts at different places, because it's going to be interesting going forward, and who knows, and just always have a backup. So, okay, now that was federal. So we had Alberta, a little kind of central west there, and then we went to Canada. Now let's go over to CTV News here in Vaughan in Ontario. Man accused of kidnapping, sexually assaulting woman in Vaughan after claiming to be a rideshare driver. A 30-year-old man is accused of kidnapping and sexually assaulting a woman after posing as a rideshare driver in Vaughan. York Regional Police said a woman was waiting for a ride in that area of Major Mackenzie Drive west in Jane Street shortly after 3 a.m. on Monday when a man approached her. He allegedly told the woman during their conversation that he was a rideshare driver and then offered to drive her home. After they entered his vehicle, he drove to a parking lot on a Major Mackenzie Drive west where he stopped and sexually assaulted her, police alleged. Shortly after, the man allegedly threatened her and forced her out of the vehicle and drove away. After assisting the victim, officers who responded to a call searched the area and located the suspect's vehicle as the driver as well as the driver, police said. He was arrested without incident, and in news releases on Friday, police identified him as 30-year-old Mohammed Shakil Zulmay. He has been charged with kidnapping, sexual assault, and uttering threats. Police have also released his photo as to believe there are other victims who have not come forward. And I'll post his picture up here. And just a quick note, when I actually found the story, it was through a TikTok. Someone was reporting on it, and she was also giving advice for women that I just kind of wanted to share, which is a really good thought when you're doing things like this. And obviously, like, not victim blaming whatsoever, but I think when situations happen like this, the best that we could do is educate ourselves as well, so that we, have an understanding of what we can try and do to best protect ourselves. So, and this is men, women across the board, right? For one, when you order one, make sure that when they show up, that you look at the license plate and look at the make and card, make sure it's the right one. Those are things that you can do. You can also ask the driver to ask who it's for, because if they can't come up with your name and they obviously don't have that information from the booking, that's obviously a red flag. Make sure that you are getting picked up in kind of like a lighter area if you can, where it's like nice and bright, and just making sure that someone knows where you are. Again, sharing maybe your location with a girlfriend or someone, just to like have that. And it sounds silly that you would have to do this, but this is stuff that, we even worried about when I was living in Red Deer back, over almost 2 decades ago. Like, this isn't uncommon. I just think now we've got more apps, more people doing these kind of jobs, more people not driving as much or being more responsible than when I was in my 20s and 30s, and using these services more, right? And a lot of people now, I'm sure they vet people, but before with cabs, for the most part, and there were bad cab drivers, do not get me wrong, but for the most part, they're vetted in with a company. Now these are a lot of individuals that maybe don't get as much of a background check. So just having those thoughts in mind and using those tips could help prevent certain situations. Not anything can happen, but I think having that knowledge is definitely was helpful to me. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like, confirming it's the right vehicle, the right license plate. Do they know who you are? If you're feeling unsafe, right? If you're not, then that's great. But these are signs that you can do and things that you can do if you're by yourself and you're a little bit concerned. So I thought that was kind of a little bit disturbing, and I wanted to bring that article to the forefront as well, because again, I think it's super important to know these things and talk about them here. And again, just reiterating this whole like lightness on crime needs to stop. Like, there's individuals that need to be stopped and put in jail for these fucking crimes, and I'm glad that he got caught. But what worries me is like, will he just be released and he can do it again? And it's not like you ride or you share can necessarily stop him, because he's just going around and acting like this, right? So just be aware. I think another one, do not approach them. Let you set up the appointment. I think that's maybe another good one to look at in this situation. You set up the appointment, right? Then maybe that would be one way to make sure it's a little bit safer, right? But again, it's 3 a.m. on a Monday. I'm sure she was trying to get a ride. She's probably not thinking clearly if she's out late or she's drinking, just be careful. I swear, you guys, the most disgusting stories are the ones that come out of British Columbia. I don't know what it is. Does anybody know what it is? Can someone help me understand this? The last article, probably the most disturbing one, and I don't want to trigger warning all the time, but this one's kind of gross. If you have kids around or whatever, maybe just put the headphones in right now. But this one, again, another article coming from CTV. BC man who assaulted 7 women during a vaginal rejuvenation treatment gets 11-year sentence. 27th, this was published. The operator and medical aesthetic business in Burnaby has been sentenced to 11 years in prison for sexually assaulting clients during a non-surgical vaginal rejuvenation treatment using a high-intensity focused ultrasound machine. A jury convicted Farshad Kashani last year of 7 counts of sexual assault, each involving a different client. He was sentenced in BC Supreme Court earlier this month, and Justice Lisa A. Warren's reasons for sentencing were published on Thursday. The offenses occurred between 2019 and 2021, according to a news release issued by Burnaby RCMP in 2022, after 2 different victims had come forward. At the time, Kashani had been charged with 2 counts of sexual assault, but police said they hadn't ruled out that other people might have information related to the case and urged those people to contact them. Warren's decision indicates 5 other victims came forward in response to the police appeal. The offenses. The women's identities are protected by publication ban, and they are referred to in the decision only by initials. According to the decision, HIFU vaginal rejuvenation treatment, when properly performed, involved gently and slowly inserting a wand that emits ultrasound energy into the vagina with the client lying on their back in a pap smear position. The process involves a single insertion and the gradual withdrawal of the wand, their decision reads. The practitioner is required to touch the vaginal area of the client only to the extent necessary to guide the wand during the initial insertion. As summarized in Warren's decision, the victims described procedures that departed from the standard significantly. One woman told the courts that Kashani ordered her to bend over and allowed him to insert the wand from behind. Others reported that he had inserted his fingers into their vaginas or rubbed their... I don't think I could say that word on YouTube. Some reported Kashani making inappropriate comments, including one woman, "It's okay if you orgasm, most women do." That victim, identified in the decision as DB, reported telling him to stop multiple times and that the procedure hurt and he did not stop. All of these victims reported that Kashani moved the wand in and out of their vaginas repeatedly and in some cases aggressively. The women's victim impact statements to the court included descriptions of being deeply traumatized by Kashani's conduct and finding the assaults humiliating, degrading, and terrifying. All of these complainants have experienced ongoing emotional and psychological suffering. The decision rates. Whoa. That's fuck. I couldn't imagine. You're already in such a vulnerable position as it is. And especially like, again, like I talked about on the internet insanity, like the Kendra falling in love with her therapist. We're waiting for the bomb to drop for him to be inappropriate and never dropped. This is inappropriate in mass amount. And I would imagine with something so close to something that is sexualized that you would want to be extra careful in the things that you did to make sure you're not being misconstrued if you were in a male in that situation. Just because as much as you might not want to cause harm, there are people that have. So I would say if you're a male practitioner doing these types of things, it might be best to try and stay very clear away from doing any of those things and making sure that you are fully respecting these individuals. Like, that is just fucking gross. Throughout the trial, Kashani denied that he had touched any of the victims inappropriately, and Warren's decision indicates he continues to maintain his innocence despite the jury's verdict. According to the decision, Kashani and his wife immigrated to Canada from Iran, where they were both medical doctors in 2011. The couple submitted more than 24 letters of support from family, friends, and clients, all of them describing him in glowing terms. Kashani has no previous criminal record, and many of the letter writers expressed a belief that he would change his behavior in the future and would be low risk to reoffend. When speaking to the psychological assessor, Mr. Kashani maintained his innocence and again characterized his sexual assault allegations as misunderstandings. Despite this, he expressed sorrow that the complainants had experienced harm, appeared visibly distressed when discussing the impact on the complainants, and expressed openness to participate in sex offender treatment, although he said he does not believe it is needed. He maintained he does not pose a risk of future sexual offending and advised that he has continued to perform this procedure to intimate areas of women's bodies under supervision without complaint. Under supervision. Kashani asked that the court for conditional sentence of 2 years less than a day plus 3 years of probation, arguing the court sentencing objectives of deterrence and denunciation had already been met by the stigma and public shaming he experienced because of media coverage for his offenses. The Crown, meanwhile, asked Warren for a sentence of 12 years in prison, calculated as 3 to 4 years per assault, to be served consecutively, but reduced by half because of the totality principle that judge must consider when determining appropriate or real sentence for the offender. Prosecutors argued that there were several aggravating factors that weighed in favor of a lengthy prison sentence, including the fact that Kashani abused a position of trust, the prolonged duration and highly invasive nature of the assaults, and the persistent despite requests to stop it in some cases. Warren ruled that the conditional sentencing would be manifesting disproportionate to the gravity of the offenses and sentenced Kashani to a total of 11 years behind bars, representing sentences of 18 months for each 5 of the victims and 21 for the other 2, all served consecutively. Accordingly, you are granted credit at 1.5 days for each day you served, which the amount of credit 252 days pre-sentence custody. The judge also ordered him to submit DNA for registration, banned him from possessing various weapons, ordered him to have no contact with any of his victims, and pay a $1,400 victim surcharge. Kashani must also comply with the Sex Offender Information Registration Act for 20. That, I wasn't there. But the breach of trust for a patient doing something like that, like I said, you know what position you are in. You know the sensitive areas for that which you're performing. I believe it would be in your best interest to ensure that there is 0 misunderstandings when you're in that position. Medical professional, right? Like we talked about Kendra and the psychiatrist, there wasn't anything that he did that was inappropriate. There wasn't anything that could have been misconstrued as being inappropriate. This is inappropriate. This is abuse of power. This is abuse of trust, and it is absolutely disgusting. And of course, again, it comes out of British Columbia. That being said, there's a story I have next week to bring to you guys that is another part of Canada, and it's really, really gross. But I'm going to leave you guys with a positive story, okay? I'm going to try not always be doom and gloom. I'm going to leave you with one final happy nugget for Canada here. Anyway, I have this picture. What the fuck? Okay, so the happy news for today, and I'm going to show you a picture here. Canadian dresses up as Dash Hound to walk as Dash Hound, and he's going viral. And I feel like Canada, we need more of this. We need more of this. We need more of the cuteness and the happiness. More, please, because this shit is not great. But I feel like, again, on social media, we don't get shared these kind of things. So keep an eye out. Again, if you need to go back, screenshot the picture for the 6-year-old little boy there, Darius. And also to keep in mind, when we're working through this holiday season for shipping, Canada Post is on and off. So make sure you get set yourselves up with another form, and maybe, I hate to say it, but like, fuck, at least like Amazon's not a part of that. Like, and that's the shitty part. That's why so many people want to support local or Canadian. But then when our main postal system goes down and it costs 50 extra dollars to send anything within our own country, that gets really hard, right? So, just pray to have a resolution for that at some point so that workers could go back to work. I know they don't want to necessarily be doing this either. Like, I'm sure that's stressful for them too. I'm not sure if they get paid during that time, but I can imagine that's being stressful and they don't want to go through that either. And then also at the same time, be aware of the rideshare things and things you can do to protect yourself. You can search on Google, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, look at anywhere if you need advice, or join a boxing class if that makes you feel better, or a self-defense class. And then as well, again, just shouting out to, and again, if you are a medical professional, make sure that you're absolutely respecting those clients and making sure that there is no possible misunderstandings that can happen when they're in your care, because I don't think that that's a fair thing to say. Just, you admit you're going to jail for 11 years. Like, obviously the evidence was enough to prosecute you for that. And I hope that people look at this and the really shitty practitioners are evaluating themselves and completely fixing and checking themselves to not be this way, and to ensure that they always have the trust of their patients. But anyways, you guys, if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening to this Keeping Up with Canada. I hope that you liked this episode. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this. If you have anything you want me to cover, let me know. If not, you can find me again on Wednesday for Internet Insanity, and then you can find me on the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Rumble every Friday, where I bring you amazing episodes with great guests having real talk. But until next time, guys, bye!
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Until next time, bye!